Hello and good day, online world. I am Precious Siba Dahay, together with my group.
I am Nicole Aberte.
I am Henry Jr. J. Castro.
I am Jefferson B. Homento.
I am Melin Curiel Palencia.
Today, we will discuss our chosen research article about portfolio assessment.
The title of this study is about the role of portfolio assessment and reflection on process writing. The authors are both from University of Dillon, Ahmad Sharifi and Jali Hasashka. The research was published by Asian EFL Journal on March 2011. The present study has devoted itself to investigate the effect of using portfolio assessment, technique, and reflection activities in student writings and process writing. This study, which followed the quasi-experimental design, was conducted in a class of 20 students at Shadid Satari Air University of Iran.
Curriculum and instruction practices in teaching of English as a second language or ASL has undergone significant modification during the last 15 years. This shift in pedagogical theory has resulted in the increasing use of student-centered communicative approaches in the classroom. These approaches include the process writing, process reading, communicative competence, and whole language, and are distinguished from prior practices by their focus on language function and meaning and the process of learning. Proponents of process-oriented curricula and instruction concur that traditional assessment techniques are often incongruent with current English as a second language classroom practices. Standardized testing is seen as particularly antithetical to process learning and has been attacked vigorously not only in English as a second language, but throughout the field of education because of the incompatibility of process learning and product assessment and the discrepancy between the information needed and the information derived through standardized testing. Educators have begun to explore alternative forms of students' assessment techniques, one of which is a portfolio assessment. It increasingly cited as a viable alternative to standardized testing, according to Wolf, 1989, as a language teaching has moved in the direction of learner-centered approach. Testing and assessment have begun to incorporate the measures that reflect the type of task which are more learner-centered and authentic. However, it seems that the current trend in some educational system is that teachers provide students with a single test at the end of the course. Whereas standardized tests serve as a purpose in education, they are neither infallible nor sufficient. Many educators like Flood and Lapp acknowledge that any single score almost always fails to accurately report students' overall progress. A single measure seems incapable of estimating the diversity of skills, knowledge, processes, and strategies that combine to determine student progress.
So the objective of this study is to first do reflective activities for the portfolio have any effect on the improvement of student process writing. Next is do reflective activities for the portfolio, improvements of student writing quality in terms of depth, breadth, and growth. So next, portfolio assessment with a multiple on the study performance contribute to assessment process. And the last one is do reflective activities for the portfolio have any effect on the student growth over time, including the student activities knowledge with attitude.
For the methodology, the research design of the study. The design used for the study is both qualitative and quantitative in nature. It is quantitative in that a quasi-experimental design has been adopted. Also, the students' performance on writing have been described in terms of organization, content, accuracy, and complexity. Their performances were checked using repeated measure statistical technique to see the amount of students' improvement over the period of time. The design is also qualitative in that students' growth over time has been described through the portfolio they have prepared. There have been some criteria students had to meet in their portfolio, which will be discussed later. Also, a validated questionnaire was given to students to express their attitudes toward portfolio-based teaching and reflective activities. The respondents of this study was conducted with 20 intermediate-level male students at Shahid Chattari Air University. They were in the age range 22 to 28 with different cultural backgrounds. As far as the writing instructions is concerned, they already had some informal lessons on paragraph writing. Due to the practical problems, no random selection produced was made. During the semester, the researchers administered 10 tests after teaching a particular writing lessons, which serves as 5 pre-tests and 5 post-tests. Instruments, according to the purpose of the study, a number of instruments for collecting the relevant data were used. The writing test, the instructional material used in the treatment sessions, assessments and rating checklist. For the questionnaire, an already validated questionnaire was given to students to express their attitude to portfolio-based teaching and reflective activities. This questionnaire, which was adopted from Macmillan 2006, has 3 parts: questions about personal and professional development, general statements, and portfolio effectiveness.
The result of this study, for the quantitative part of the study, the researcher used the paired sample pretest and the time series to if the application of reflection through portfolio had any effect on the student's writing. Before that, the researcher administered 5 pretests before giving treatment. These pretests, which were administered every week, were accompanied by teaching essay writing without requiring students. The reason for this is that pretest is used for 2 comparisons only, and because there were 10 comparisons in this study, example, pretest 1 with pretest 2, pretest 2 with pretest 3, and etc. The new level of significance was set as a result of applying Bonferroni test, having the previous level of significance divided by the number of comparisons. 0.01 divided 10 is equals to 0.001. The following is the description of the data gained by paired sample t-test. Table 1, paired sample t-test for the students pretest 1 and pretest 2. As shown in the table, there is not any significant difference between student scores on the first and the second pretest. The student's mean score moved from 5.98 on the pretest 1 to 6.03 on the pretest 2. Table number 2, paired sample t-test for the students pretest 2 and pretest 3. Table 2 indicates that there isn't any significant difference between students pretest 2 and pretest 3. There is an improvement in the student scores, moving from the mean score of 6.03 on the pretest 2 to 6.10 on the pretest 3. With the quantitative and qualitative data gathered, we can conclude that the treatment was effective. Therefore, null hypotheses 1, 2, and 4 are rejected. Hypothesis 3 is also rejected since the student's portfolio helped the researcher have a greater view of students' improvement and assess their achievement more effectively.
For the conclusions, that the finding of this study may be applied to all educational fields and in all educational settings, where the aim is to raise students' consciousness and awareness of their own learning strategies and to help them develop some kind of criticality and reflectivity towards what and how they are taught and how they learn. Particularly, this study may pave the way for teachers to help their students proceed towards meaningful learning away from resorting to memorization, which is inadequate technique at present.
Thank you.